So tonight, we're doing what every Floridian should be very familiar with, the red snapper. This is one of the king of fish to cook in the South. Tonight what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be cooking it in a salt crust. What we're actually going to do is, with all this salt, we're going to add a little water to this. Just enough to where it's almost a wet sand consistency, or the consistency of almost snow. Just to make sure the whole thing is seasoned well, we're going to want to season the interior just a little bit, just to make sure the actual fish is seasoned well, inside and out. Take a lemon wedge or two, and a handful of herbs. I've got dill, thyme, and a sprig of rosemary. And that's our fish nicely dressed. Create a bit of a bed. We'll take our snapper. And we're going to coat the entire fish in the salt crust. You want to do this with a lighter or sweeter fish, something like a snapper or a sea bream, sea bass, even trout. You would not want to do this with something like salmon or a very oily fish. Once you have the fish nicely and totally encased in the salt crust, into a 400-degree oven for about a half hour or so. So to go with the snapper, we're going to do a fantastic little toss of some field peas. In this case, some yellow-eyed peas. We've got some shallot, celery, and carrot, just nicely diced. And because it's nice summer vegetables, we're keeping in line with some wonderful Mighty Vine tomatoes that I just halved. Some herbs here. This is just a mix of parsley and some fresh dill. This is just some tomato water, which is simply made by doing a double boiler with boiling water underneath and a bowl at top, with some chopped, wonderfully heirloom and ripe tomatoes, some aromatics, and a couple strips of bacon in there as well to add a little smoky element to that, as well as just some store-bought seafood broth that I just bought the container and reduced it at a nice simmer in a pot down to maybe about 2 tablespoons or so. So it's very intense flavor to sort of like perfume that. And actually the gelatin of that store-bought broth has actually created this nice, thick, viscous, almost tomato jus when it cools down. And of course, when I heat it up, it'll loosen up to just be just a very fragrant broth. So we're gonna go ahead and get the yellow-eyed peas started. Generous amount of olive oil here. Get our shallots in. Celery and carrots. We're going to sweat our mirepoix. Salt, pepper, while the veg is going, we're going to again take our tomato broth here. Just warm that up nicely. Now that the veg is gone for a few minutes, we'll just add our tomatoes just so they can sort of blister down a bit. Fresh layer of seasoning. And just mix them in. Then we're going to go ahead and add the cooked field peas. A little bit of butter. And then just to finish it, a little hit of lemon juice. And our nice herbs. And that's the field piece. All right, it's been about 45 minutes or so. And if you can hear, it's totally rock solid. And you want to let that rest for maybe a minute or two just to sort of let everything kind of go back to where it was, and then we'll break into it and get the fish. We'll just take a spoon and sort of break off the bits here. Right behind the head, just to reveal that perfectly cooked flesh is completely juicy. And just so gently pull the skin back. And the skin acts as a natural barrier between the flesh and the salt. You can cut it. So to take some of these field peas, just right in the center of our plate. And to fillet it, you can see this dark line coming down the center where the pin bones are. We can just take a spoon and sort of just run it down and just very gently pull the flesh away from the bones. And then we're going to just scoop our fish here. This fantastic tomato broth. Gloss over the fish just gently. Let's take some of our celery leaves right from the heart of the head of celery. And a little bit of fresh dill as well. Just keeping everything really nice and bright and summery. And there you have it. Salt crusted snapper with some field peas and a fantastic tomato broth.